A harsh childhood and the path to martial arts. Yi Zhong was born in 1932 into a poor farming family in Guangdong. His childhood was marked by chaos, famine, and war. Tragedy struck when he was only 13 years old. Both his father and mother died from a combination of disease and starvation. Left alone in a turbulent world, the young Yi Zhong was forced to bury his parents with his own hands. Carrying nothing more than a few belongings and an iron will, he set out on a perilous journey to Hong Kong in search of relatives. Resourceful beyond his years, he slipped into a crowd at the Zhongying checkpoint, held the hand of an old woman as if she were his grandmother, and managed to evade border inspectors to enter Hong Kong. Once there, Yi Zhong was taken in by relatives and began working as a waiter to survive. At the time, Hong Kong was a chaotic place. Gangs ruled the streets, turf wars erupted regularly, and martial arts schools flourished as young men sought to protect themselves. Fascinated by the street fights he witnessed, Yi Zhong saved up his meager earnings to enroll in a Hung Gar school. He possessed a natural talent for combat. He quickly mastered the powerful, iron-bodied techniques of Hung Gar, and also learned the fluid, deceptive snake style. By blending hard and soft styles, he developed a formidable, well-rounded skill set. Within a few years, his abilities were so advanced that he could take on a dozen men at once without backing down. Joining the 14K Triad and becoming Crazy Old Chung through underground martial arts match, Yi Zhong befriended several members of the notorious 14K Triad. With their recommendation, he officially joined the organization and became a disciple of Oman, one of 14 founding elders, aligning himself with the orthodox filial Double Daggers faction. From the moment he joined, Yi Zhong stood out as a fearless and violent enforcer. He always led the charge in gang brawls, showing no mercy and often breaking his opponent's arms or legs. His ferocity earned him both fear and respect among enemies and comrades alike. His name became legendary after a brutal turf war in the antique district of Hong Kong. With only 8 followers, Yi Zhong faced off against more than 30 thugs from the rival Sun Yian Triad. Though outnumbered, he smashed a storefront window, grabbed a jagged shard of glass, and charged into the fray like a madman. He slashed and struck with such intensity that many of his enemies were severely injured or fled in panic. From that day on, the Underworld gave him a fearsome nickname, Lao Chung, the Mad, Crazy Old Chung. Thanks to his unmatched fighting ability, Yi Zhong quickly earned the trust of Oman. He was put in charge of the Washington Theater, a gold mine at the time, where illegal gambling, ticket scalping, and protection rackets flourished. He guarded this territory fiercely, once chasing down more than 10 troublemakers with a broadsword in hand. His influence grew rapidly. He expanded his control into the Mati district and took over the famous Temple Street, one of Hong Kong's most lucrative and dangerous zones. His string of victories earned him the rank of Double Flower Red Pole, a prestigious position reserved for the most elite fighters in 14K, second only to the Dragon Head and Combat Authority. A fateful turning point and the escape to the Netherlands. By 1973, Yi Zhong was at the height of his power. Looking to expand further, he set his sights on the Wan Chai Bay area hotbed, controlled by the Wo Hop 2 gang. When tensions boiled over, Yi Zhong didn't negotiate. He slapped the rival gang boss across the face, sent his men scattering, and seized the area. The Wo Hop 2 boss later returned with reinforcements to avenge the humiliation, but Yi Zhong crushed them again. To drive his point home, he chased the gang leader with a broadsword through the streets. Terrified, the man fled into the Jin Yan Chiang guest house, but Yi Zhong pursued him upstairs to the 2nd floor. Cornered and panicking, the rival boss jumped out the window to his death. The violent death triggered a massive police investigation. Realizing he couldn't escape blame, Yi Zhong used his money and reputation to find someone to take the fall. A young follower named Lung Wing Sang was chosen by lot to be the scapegoat. Yi Zhong promised him a light sentence of 2 to 3 years. However, the trial took a devastating turn. Luang was sentenced to life in prison. Overwhelmed with fear, Luang confessed the entire scheme, implicating Yi Zhong as the true killer. Upon hearing this, Yi Zhong acted fast. He fled Hong Kong and escaped to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. The Godfather of Holland era, upon arriving in Amsterdam, Yi Zhong reunited with his martial arts senior, Chan Yuan Mo, who led the 14K faction in the city's Chinatown. At 2. Time. Chinatown was divided between Chan's 14K and a vicious local gang called Akung Tongik. Zhong's arrival changed everything. Instead of negotiating or maneuvering politically, he went straight to war. He assembled a small team, armed them with a K-47 SA, and launched a surprise assault on Akung Tong's headquarters. The rival gang was caught off guard and overwhelmed. After defeating their fighters, Yi Zhong personally stormed the main stronghold and destroyed their base of operations. In one swift and brutal move, he seized control of Amsterdam's Chinatown. Under his leadership, 14K dominated every aspect of the underground economy: gambling dens, brothels, and large-scale heroin trafficking. His power spread across the Netherlands, controlling more than half of the country's underworld. The criminal community began calling him the Godfather of Holland. His authority became so absolute that in 1976, when Hong Kong martial arts star and fellow double flower Red Bull, Chan Wai-man brought his film crew to Amsterdam, he had to pay a hefty protection fee to operate in Yi Zhong's territory. No one dared to challenge him. Prison, old age, and death later that same year. 1976, Yi Zhong's past caught up with him. He was extradited back to Hong Kong to face justice for the murder years earlier. He was sentenced to life imprisonment and spent the next 23 years behind bars. In 2002, due to good behavior and his advanced age, he was finally released. Unlike his younger days of blood and glory, Yi Zhong lived quietly after his release. In 2014, he celebrated his 82nd birthday with a lavish banquet that brought together some of the most powerful figures of the Asian underworld. Among the guests were Maka, Godfather Bing, Njie Ku, and Chan Wai-man himself. Everyone in attendance showed deference to the once feared legend. In 2021, after a lifetime of violence, power, and survival, Yi Zhong passed away from complications related to the COVID-19 pandemic. His funeral was grand and steeped in Triad tradition. According to Hongman customs, only individuals of the highest rank and moral stature are honored with a ritual featuring 3 white dancing lines, a symbol of ultimate respect. Yi Zhong received this rare tribute. Representatives from rival triads came to pay their respects, a clear testament to the profound impact. An enduring legacy of a man who once ruled the streets of Hong Kong and the underworld of Europe. Legacy of a violent legend. Yi Zhong's life is a dramatic arc of hardship, power, and downfall, an embodiment of the 20th century Triad era. From an orphaned boy surviving famine to a feared double flower Red Pole from ruling Amsterdam's Chinatown with an iron fist, to dying as a respected elder of the underworld, his story mirrors the rise and fall of Hong Kong's most notorious criminal empires. Though his actions left a bloody mark on history within the criminal world, he remains a symbol of ferocity, cunning, and unyielding will. Man who could bend entire cities to his rule, but ultimately could not escape the passage of time. In the sprawling concrete jungle of Hong Kong, where fortunes are made and lost overnight, legends are forged not just in boardrooms, but in the shadowy alleys of the underworld. Today, we delve into one such legend. A story whispered in hushed tones, the tale of the black and white impermanence, the ruthless rise and spectacular fall of Hong Kong's most feared Triad duo. Our story begins in the gritty, post-war streets of Kowloon. This wasn't the gleaming metropolis we know today. It was a chaotic labyrinth of poverty and ambition, a perfect breeding ground for those who dared to live outside the law. It was here that 2 young men, Ah Hak and Ah Bok, met. Hak, meaning black, was the muscle, a stoic, fearsome brawler whose fists spoke louder than words. Bok, meaning white, was the brains, a sharp, cunning strategist who could see 3 moves ahead of any rival. Together, they were a perfect storm. They started small, running protection rackets in local markets, but their ambition was boundless. Hak's reputation for unyielding brutality, combined with Bok's brilliant schemes, allowed them to carve out a territory with terrifying speed. They didn't just defeat their rivals, they absorbed them, dismantled them, and made examples of them. Their methods were ruthless, earning them a moniker inspired by the underworld deities of Chinese folklore. Hak Mosun and Bok Mosun, the black and white impermanents, messengers of death. As their empire grew, They expanded into more lucrative ventures. They weren't just street thugs anymore. They were becoming a corporation of crime. From smuggling and loan sharking to infiltrating legitimate businesses, their influence spread like a shadow across the city. Bach, the mastermind, established a complex network of informants and corrupt officials. While Hak enforced their rule with an iron fist, they seemed untouchable, a dual-headed dragon reigning over Hong Kong's criminal landscape. At the peak of their power, they controlled a significant portion of the city's underground economy. They lived lavishly, their names synonymous with both fear and estranged, dark glamour. They were the kings of a hidden kingdom, their edicts carrying the weight of law in the places the police couldn't or wouldn't reach. But in the world of triads, the higher you climb, the harder you fall. The very traits that fueled their rise would soon become the seeds of their destruction. Cracks began to appear in their seemingly unbreakable bond. Bach, ever the strategist, saw the changing tides. Hong Kong was modernizing. The old ways of brute force were becoming obsolete. He wanted to legitimize their operations, to wash their money clean and transition from gangsters to businessmen. He envisioned a future where they could operate in the open, shedding their violent past. Hak, however, saw this as a sign of weakness. He was a creature of the streets, a warrior who believed in the simple, brutal purity of power. To him, going legit was a betrayal of everything they had built. He despised the world of suits and handshakes, trusting only the loyalty forged in blood and fear. This fundamental disagreement created a rift between them, a chasm that their enemies were all too eager to exploit. Rival gangs, long suppressed under their reign, saw their chance. They began to chip away at the edges of their territory, testing their resolve. At the same time, the Royal Hong Kong Police, armed with new anti-corruption laws and a dedicated organized crime and triad bureau, launched a major offensive. The net was closing in from all sides. The paranoia and distrust between Hak and Bach festered. Bach suspected Hak of plotting to remove him, believing he had become too soft. Hak saw Bach's secret meetings and financial maneuvers as a plot to cut him out and leave him to the wolves. The perfect partnership, the yin and yang of their criminal enterprise, was now hopelessly out of balance. Their enemies didn't need to defeat them. They just had to wait for them to destroy each other. The final act was as swift as it was tragic. A deal orchestrated by Bach to secure a new, legitimate business front. Was it a setup by a rival or a trap laid by Hak to eliminate his partner? The truth was lost in the chaos. In the ensuing conflict, the duo turned on each other. The strategists and the brothers in crime became mortal enemies. Their empire, built on a foundation of brutal unity, crumbled in a single night of betrayal and violence. In the end, there were no winners. The legend of the black and white impermanence concluded as it began. In the shadows, one was found lifeless in an abandoned warehouse, a victim of the very violence he championed. The other vanished, rumored to have escaped with a fraction of their fortune. Forever looking over his shoulder, a ghost haunted by the empire he built and destroyed. Their fall was a stark reminder of a simple truth. In the underworld, loyalty is a currency, and betrayal is the final price. The cycle of power is relentless, and even the most feared figures are ultimately impermanent. The story of Hak and Bach serves as a cautionary tale, a dark chapter in the vibrant history of Hong Kong. It shows that even the strongest empires can collapse from within, and that the bonds forged in the underworld are as fragile as they are fierce. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Hong Kong's criminal past. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating hidden histories. Let us know in the comments what legends you want us to explore next. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.